Welcome, colleagues, back to the office. It's Steve. Welcome to our next breakout session for the day. This is K2's 10 Teams features you can't afford to miss. Thank you so much for choosing this as your breakout session. I'm really excited to be able to present this class to you, as Teams is one of those applications that will truly transform the way your organization operates, communicates, collaborates, and really kind of in a very deep way change many of the aspects of how you conduct your business. In my opinion, it is just one of those applications that really just bring everybody together, and even if you're not in the same geographic space, can make it feel like you're all working together in the same uniform way. It gives you the ability, for example, to be able to instantly be able to start a video conversation with anybody inside the company, be able to send an instant message to anybody inside the organization, share files, easily be able to pull in information from SharePoint, schedule a meeting, and more. In a lot of ways, it's proved to be the absolute linchpin of communication inside of our organizations, and it can really do a tremendous job for your companies. So in today's session, what we're going to be talking about are the features that you just can't afford to miss. We're going to go through just a very cursory run through of essentially where to get Teams, how to get started with Teams, but no more than just a couple of minutes, just to familiarize those of you who are maybe new to the party that maybe haven't had an opportunity to use this incredible tool before. So, but we're really going to be focusing on some of the more advanced things that you might not be directly familiar with. You know, some of the hidden features like in chatting and in file sharing, working with people inside and outside of the organization, and some of the different features that I really think differentiate, let's say, an average user from a power user of Teams. So we have lots of incredible things. I'm going to go through that full list here just in a minute, just to give you a full rundown. But I do want to open it up. If you get a second here, I'd love to know what you are interested in learning about today. If you have any particular expectations or questions for this presentation, I'd love to know what they are. You know, please go ahead, open up that chat pod just for a moment, shoot me over a message, let me know what you're interested in learning about today, and I will do my best to be able to incorporate that into our presentation. Any and all questions are welcome and appreciated. Teams is a new application for most of us, so I'm more than happy to try to address the questions that folks have. So I've got that chat pod open. You can chat me at any point, and I will do my best to try to incorporate your specific questions into our class for today. For those of you who don't know me, who haven't had an opportunity to share a webinar or an in-person seminar together, again, my name is Steve Yoss. I'm a K2 instructor. I'm a certified public accountant from the West Coast. However, I primarily work in software development and have for many years. I try to take my love of accounting and finance and apply it to technology. And in my business, Devmatics, we build all sorts of custom applications and software solutions for all different types of businesses. Pretty much everything we touch is bespoke. We make software that solves real complicated business problems for people. Everything from mobile apps to enterprise software, inventory management, scheduling, training, and more. You name it, we've done it. So if any of you have any questions about complicating or uncomplicating technology problems in your organizations, by all means, please feel free to reach out and ask. Now, I do want to draw your attention to something new that is in the K2 universe, which is the CPE Today podcast. CPE Today podcast is coming to you live twice a week, broadcasting for free on Facebook and YouTube at 11 o'clock Pacific. You're more than welcome to watch live, and you can also download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and more, and listen at your leisure. The podcast covers a wide variety of topics, all the latest and greatest stuff in accounting and business technology that you should know. We're covering a wide range of not only technology topics, but other things of the industry that you should stay on top of. It has great reviews, analysis, training on a whole bunch of topics, and believe it or not, you can actually earn CPE credit for just tuning in and listening. It's super fast, it's efficient, it's affordable. Check it out, CPE Today podcast, streaming to you live twice a week. We've done 30 episodes thus far, and we're planning on doing at least 2 a week for the remainder of the year and into the future. So it's a great way of learning more, and if you like coming to our conferences, this is more great K2 content coming your way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. And let's just talk real quick about what we're going to be looking at today. So in today's presentation, the 10 features, we're going to talk about why Teams is this Uber communications tool and why you might want to consider using it. We're going to talk about how you can use Teams as a fantastic co-authoring and collaboration tool. It is really an incredible tool when it comes to, for example, putting together documents or spreadsheets or PowerPoint presentations with other people of your company and being able to work on it concurrently with them. And people don't even have to be in your company. You can work with what are called guest users and external team members. These are people outside of your company's domain. And these are going to be people, for example, like clients, vendors, external contractors, folks that you might need to work with on a regular basis, but should not have, for example, the same level of privilege that a company employee might have, or a director or a manager inside your organization. We're going to talk about the third-party functionality inside of Teams, the app functionality, which is truly awesome. You can do a lot of really incredible stuff with your apps inside of Teams. And there are applications that you can add that bring this third-party functionality. For example, everything from booking plane tickets and booking hotel rooms to incorporating files from other file share services such as Google Drive, Box, and others. We're going to talk through some of the security and compliance stuff that you should be familiar with in order to use Teams effectively. Teams is great because it's integrated into the overall Office ecosystem, and it out of the box has a number of great security and compliance features already enabled. I'm going to familiarize you with where some of these additional security and compliance features are located. So if you choose to make additional adjustments, you can know where to find those particular functions. We'll talk about through some of the meeting controls, how to screen share, how to audio share, what that potentially looks like. We're going to talk through, for example, how to utilize this across different operating systems and different environments. Teams is what we call an Electron app. I know that sounds like a cool word, and it is Electron. And Electron apps are apps that are designed to be deployed under all circumstances, whether you're talking a Windows environment, you're talking a Mac environment, mobile, or elsewhere. It's a write once, run many type of app that allows Teams to essentially work on whatever computer the user is choosing to use, whether it's the straight up website for Teams, or it is the Windows installed app, or the Mac installed app, or the mobile app. They all relatively work the same, and they all pretty much have the same functionality. Another big component of Teams is the fact that it is natively integrated with SharePoint, which is one of my absolute favorite functionalities of this tool. SharePoint answers the question of, where do I keep my company files? I know where my files are. They're in OneDrive or they're in Google Drive, but what about the stuff for my team? What about the stuff for my overall company? Well, SharePoint is that location. It answers the question of, how does our company, multiple people, be able to collaborate and share files in a concise and consistent manner? Well, that is in that SharePoint, which is beautifully and succinctly and cleanly integrated into Teams. I'll show you how you can use that interface to be able to bring in Teams data directly from Teams into your local computer. And we'll also talk about how we can manage this for improving productivity with our applications and with our company teams and for our company departments, utilizing both teams and channels to make things a little bit easier for communication. And we'll also talk about some of these commands that you can use in Teams, which are kind of text-based. So that's all 10. I'm going to do my best to cover as many of these as we possibly can. Some of these we're going to go in pretty good depth. Others we are just going to kind of maybe just introduce this topic. But I do want to draw your attention to the sample materials and the book that are provided, which I go into depth on all 10 of these different topics. Now, we did have a couple of questions pop in over here while I was talking about what we're going to discuss today. And I just want to take a quick look at what these questions are and figure out where to incorporate them into our presentation. Okay, we got a question here. Any way to better organize Teams? Only the hidden ones are alphabetized. Okay, great. We can definitely take a look at that, and we will. I'll show you some of the things that you can do with organizing, because you have teams and you have channels. And they're kind of confusing. You have team, which is representative of like a big idea, and then channels, which are kind of like sub-ideas inside of it. In our company, we have a company team, and then we have several channels, each representing different client relationships. And so I'll talk about how we organize some of those as well. and what it looks like to create them. Another person writes in, we are a public accounting firm. We're trying to determine how to structure teams and channels. We've considered creating a team for each client, or at least a larger client where the partner and staff is assigned to a client and can discuss. It would be for internal discussion for now. Is this a logical approach? Thank you for your question there. And what I will tell you is that that is a great logical approach. We create a single team, and then for every team, we have several channels. So the team, for example, would be clients, or it could be internal, or it could be maybe by a business unit if you're a larger organization. And then we create separate channels inside of each one of those, with each channel representing a client relationship. And why we do that is because that ties in very cleanly with how SharePoint is designed to be used. And so it creates a SharePoint site per team and per client. And it's a great way of being able to organize files in a very clean and succinct manner without a lot of duplication and extra work. So I will show you how I structure that here when we get to that particular section. So please, questions are always welcome and appreciated. By all means, feel free to share and feel free to ask questions as we go. Okay, first, let's just go ahead and have a quick introduction to Teams, just so we're all on the same page with respect to what this application can do and what its best use cases are, because it is one of these applications in my mind that really does add a tremendous amount of value to the organization. And kind of once you have it set up and established, you'll find that you'll use it in so many different ways, in so many different circumstances. Okay. So Teams is an application that is designed both as a web service, as a website, as well as a file sharing and syncing service. It is something that you can utilize on a Mac. It's something you can utilize on a PC. It is something that you can utilize on your mobile device with whatever you choose to use it. It is available for you. And I really kind of like that because it is so easily adaptable to so many different circumstances for so many different ways that you might choose to use this application. And it's really kind of intended to be that kind of linchpin of communication for your organization, whether you are, for example, using it to instant message, or whether you are using it to screen share and create virtual meetings. It can utilize all that functionality, and it's really kind of up to you to determine its particular best cases for your company. So let's go ahead and take a look at this application, and we are going to be utilizing it today on a Windows environment, but pretty much everything I'm going to talk about is also available on Macs as well, and almost all the functionality is available on your mobile handset that you can utilize as well. So the actual application itself is a Windows based application. It's a thick client, although there's different ways that you can utilize it. And when you kind of initially work with this application, you're going to look and you're going to say, you know, there doesn't seem like there's much going on here, but boy, is there a lot more under the hood than you could imagine. Some of the base configuration of this application are how the application is organized into functional area. Okay, most of the functional stuff is going to be located here on the left-hand side. You'll see we've got our activity button, we've got chat, Teams, calendar, calls, and then ultimately files, and these three little dots, which are the ellipses. And if we scroll down here all the way to the bottom, you'll see we have apps and then a help button as well. The top of the application, for the most part, is pretty barren. There's really not a lot to see, and there's really not a lot going on in it. So most of the application work is going to be done right in here. For the stuff that is related to us, for the work that we are doing, we're going to see this activity button, and it's going to show the mentions, the replies, and the other things that are coming out to us. So if we happen not to be on a particular screen at that moment, we can go ahead and see those mentions and pop up. Okay, and so that activity feed is a great way to kind of keep track of what's going on. So if we switch over here, you'll see that something popped up. In our chat, we got a little 1 that will pop up. Now that little 1 pops up and it tells us that essentially that there is some sort of action. You know, the notifications on this are quite good. That little 1, it tells us that in fact that we have a chat notification. If we click over here, you'll see that in fact we did get a chat notification, in this case from Steve, saying, hey, how's it going? You know, and so the chat is intended to be a one-to-one or one-to-few type thing. There's lots of different opportunities with respect to how to utilize this application, and there's plenty of different ways and people doing it however they choose to do it. But the chat is where a lot of the actual activity of the application will be. And with this is where we can chat either one by one with an individual person, or we can create a group chat where multiple people can chat together. Now, the Teams side of this is where the actual teams are organized. And this is going to be where, for example, we can see the different teams that are available to our organization. And the teams themselves can be set up in a number of different ways. In this case, we set up a single team, and that single team will have, for example, several channels inside of it. And that single channel could be representative of a single project. It could be representative of a client relationship, a location, however you choose to do it. In this particular instance, we set ours up by client. So imagine we've got a client here called demo, and inside this demo, this is going to be where we can post conversations about something, or we can share files about something, or we can ultimately, for example, add additional tabs and applications and do kind of other stuff with it. But everything around the demo client would be located in the Teams section in the Devmatics, which is our company's central team in the demo channel. So when I tell staff, for example, hey, I want you to go look at this particular client file, or hey, can you go and update this particular client application or whatever, they know exactly where to find it because all of our clients are organized inside of Teams, which then ultimately make them organized inside of SharePoint. Okay. Working our way down here, we have our calendaring functionality, which is fantastic for organizing of people and meetings and different things that are going on. From here, this is where I can go ahead and I can organize a new meeting. This is going to be, for example, where I can schedule a different staff. For example, maybe I want to include my business partner, Alex, and maybe I want to, for example, include our head of marketing, Alicia. Well, with this, I can easily schedule meetings for our team and be able to see when they are available and when they are not available, and actually show me their schedule in real time. If we added a couple other people, let's say Alana, and let's say we add Sean, okay, we would see the additional schedules of those people pop up, which is quite nice. Teams can actually be your entire phone system too. Okay, so within Teams, you can actually make and receive phone calls with this solution as well. Now, granted, you need the calling package that is provided with Teams, which is typically going to be found in the enterprise version of the application, but you can actually use this whole solution to make and receive phone calls. So the whole need, for example, to have a desktop phone for your company goes away. And if you think about it, especially for modern organizations, most of us are meeting on a computer anyways. I can tell you 9 times out of 10 when I'm talking to a colleague, it's through a Zoom meeting or it's through a Teams meeting or something like that. The need to actually use a telephone for a lot of respects has gone away almost completely in the last 5 or 6 years. But it's there if you'd like it to be. Likewise, we can come over here to our Files menu, and we can actually browse files that are available in Microsoft Teams, in our OneDrive, and we can also add in other cloud storage services, including Dropbox, Google Drive, Box.net, and many others. So Teams is intended to bring together all this communication and collaboration under one roof. It is an application, for example, that in our company, every single person has up all the time while they're working, because this is going to be where I would go to ask a question or to share a file or to share a funny thing I found on the internet. I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to email you. I'm going to send it through Teams, and you're going to get that notification immediately. Now, one of the other cool things about Teams is the fact that how it is licensed and how it is available to different people for different purposes. Teams is part of, let me just go ahead and pull up their page here. Okay, Teams is part of the Microsoft 365 platform, but it is also available independent of 365. If you are, for example, a community group or maybe a church or a Boy Scout group or something like that, and you need a way of being able to call, communicate, collaborate, share documents with each other, you can use Teams 100% for free for up to 250 people. Their forever free plan is intended to be free now and next year and well into the future for that matter. Now, they call it Teams Lite, and it does not have all the functionality and features that you would come to expect with respect to a full version of Teams. But, again, for small organizations, that maybe don't want to come out of pocket with respect to purchasing this, it could be the difference of several $100s per month if you take into account what 365 costs. Now, there are some limitations, for example, like, if you were to have a meeting, you can only have up to 100 people in that meeting versus the paid plans, which can have 300 people. The maximum meeting duration could be 60 minutes versus the paid plans, which can go 24 hours. But if we look at the actual meat of this, screen sharing, scheduling, all that kind of stuff is present and available. Likewise with chat and collaboration, productivity, a lot of those features and functions are going to be listed. So you can even, for example, utilize the web versions of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word right inside that free version of Teams as well. Now, where I really think the paid version makes sense is going to be down here under the security and compliance, as well as in the administrative and support. Basic stuff that you would expect. Your data is private, it's encrypted, but other things that are going to be more important, for example, like enforcing multi-factor authentication, auditing and reporting, who did what, when, and where, as well as some of the administrative oversight, external users, guest users. Those are only going to be present in the paid version of the application. So I think overall the 365 platform is probably the overall best value for a cloud productivity solution, and Teams is no slouch when it comes into it. It is a wonderful additional capability provided by Microsoft, and that's already included in the 365 plans if you happen to be using it. So one other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is one of the at least for me, one of the frustrating limitations of Teams is that you can only be in one team at a time, at least easily. This is just a quick side note. For example, if I'm logged into Teams on my computer and I wanted to be on another team for another business, I can't easily do that. I can, for example, come up here to the upper right-hand corner and I can go ahead and I can add a personal account. So I could add a non-business Teams account, but I actually cannot be utilizing two teams at the same time concurrently at the moment inside of this. Now we can add external users and guest users, but truthfully, that can be kind of kludgy, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But one quick thing I wanted to let you know about was this other really cool tool that I'm a big fan of called Rambox. So Rambox is this other application. Let me just go ahead and bring it up. Come on, where are you? Well, I'll just come over here and do it in a new tab. Rambox.app, I believe. Okay, and this is a really cool solution with respect to being able to communicate with several different messaging services. Many of you, myself included, might have Slack, you might have Teams, you might have several versions of Teams for that matter. And this is a kind of a cool tool that allows you to have all of the different messaging and collaboration services in one app rather than running 5 apps or 4 apps. And it's got several hundred different apps that it supports, from Microsoft Teams to Slack to WhatsApp, the Facebook Messenger, and a lot more with it. So if you find yourself needing to run 2 versions of Teams concurrently, maybe you need to be in a client team, maybe you need to be in your company's team, you can't do it, and maybe being an external user or guest user isn't an option, this Rambox app is quite nifty with respect to for what it can do. So let me just go ahead and drop that here in the chat. You can check that out. It's a free tool. They do have a premium version of it, but I found the free version has always suited me really, really well. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into the meat of this, and let's talk through some of these major functionalities that you should be familiar with respect to Teams, and some of the kind of the really cool things that you should use with respect to this application. So as I kind of mentioned, Teams is intended to be that linchpin application, and that application that you're going to use time in, time out with respect to Oops, hold on. There we go. Click the wrong thing there. With respect to communicating and collaborating inside of your office. So one of the things that you should be familiar with is all the different features and functions so that you can start utilizing it to its full extent. I recommend using the apps, using chat, using it for meetings. The more you leverage this tool, the better it's going to be overall. Now, probably the most widely used application and use case inside of this is going to be the chat functionality. The chat functionality, in my opinion, is fantastic because it allows us, for example, to be able to communicate clearly and directly with people for what they're doing. Let's go over here and let's talk with Alicia, and let's just go ahead and institute a message to her really quickly. Now, on the left-hand side here under the chat, you're going to see your recent chats by default. Now, one of the quick things I want to point you out to, if you need to start a chat with somebody, you can use the control shortcut Control N, or just come on up here to this little button right here. And this is going to be where you can start a chat, and you could type in a single person's name like this, Alicia, or you could type in several people's names. So in this case, let's go ahead and grab the Steve guy at the same time, and maybe we throw in a third person as well. Chat is intended to be one-to-one or one-to-few, and it's intended to kind of be group focused or topic focused. Chat is intended to be kind of stream of conscious where you're going to be talking through many of these things on a day-to-day basis. Alicia just happens to be in head of our marketing. She also happens to be my wife. So as you can imagine, our chat is anything and everything that you could think of, from our wedding planning, which is in about 6 weeks, to, hey, did you happen to do that one marketing request for a client? Or, hey, did the most recent newsletter go out? But instead of, sending an email, I'll use this chat service, and this is going to be where I can go ahead and send a message. So I could select this person, and then if I come down here, what I want to draw your attention to is the actual chat box itself, and you'll see it says chat a new message. There's actually a couple features and functions that we should be familiar with in this section. There's a little bit more functionality than what I think most people are familiar with. All right, let me just orientate my window a little bit better. Alrighty. So first things first, I can come down here and I can go ahead and send her a message. Hey, how's your Thursday? Okay. And she's going to get that message instantly. Now, one of the things I want to draw your attention to, notice on the right-hand side some of the iconography present. Notice there's a little eye-looking thing right there, right? That little eye-looking thing tells me that she read it. It's a read receipt with respect to that message was not only delivered, but was also viewed by that person. That little eye tells me that she might have viewed it on her computer. She might have viewed it on her mobile app. She might have viewed it on the web client. But no matter where she happened to have consumed that message was actually received. The little check mark indicates that whatever I sent was delivered to at least one of her devices. So I always get confirmation with respect to the actual messages reaching their intended recipient. So if we look at this, she went ahead and responded. And we can go ahead and start our conversation. Let me just go ahead and ask her, hey, did you get that post up for our client? Does it look good? Need any help? Okay. And we can go ahead and we can have our conversation like we would normally do. Now, what's also kind of nice about this is that we can add reactions with respect to our chats. If she replies back and I want to provide some sort of like feedback to her, nonverbal feedback, think about, how you'd normally nod or shake your head with something. If you click in the upper right of the actual chat message, you'll see that there are several emoticons that are available. Thumbs up, heart, laugh, and then you can hit the ellipsis and you can check out additional icons that are present. And so if I like the response that she gave, I can go ahead and give her a thumbs up and she'll get that as well. And she says, all done, thanks for your input. And I can give her a little heart saying that is appreciated. I personally love these little emoticons. I like giving people feedback. I like getting feedback from people. Those nice little warm and fuzzies can be really helpful with creating good culture inside the company. Additionally, where they can also be quite helpful is with respect to when I don't have time. Maybe I'm on the phone with somebody and they're asking me a question and I don't have time to chat out a real big response. Well, I can at least give it a click and I can go ahead and provide that immediate feedback to that person. So those are some of the major chat features in the actual window that you should be familiar with. Let's go ahead and take a look below our chat box down here. See, right where it says type a new message, there's some additional options present. Let's go ahead and click that first one right there, which is an A with a pencil next to it. Now, if we click this, this gives us the rich formatting options. By default, when we copy and paste text into Teams, it's going to respect whatever formatting we have asked it to use. So it will, for example, respect anything that's bolded, underlined, bulleted, things of that nature. However, when we type our normal text without that A and the pencil being used, this is just normal text. Okay, and there's no formatting that goes along with it. If I go ahead and I click that A with the pencil on it, I can then access a whole range of additional rich formatting options. Okay, and I can go ahead and I can select this and bold it and italicize it and underline it and strike through it. And I can also highlight it. I can also change the color of it. I can make this all sorts of fun for whatever I would like it to be. And I can also adjust the font size if I would like as well. Other options include clearing formatting, which can be quite nice. So if I select this text here, or maybe I copy and paste something in and it doesn't look right, well, clicking that A with the pencil, then selecting this AB with the eraser next to it allows me to go ahead and clear that and take it back to what it was normally supposed to be. We can also quote things, we can link things, and again, we've got our ellipsis right here representing that there are additional menu options that are just out of view. So this is also by default where we can add line breaks inside of our text. By default, when we don't have rich formatting on and I go ahead and I send a message, this is a message, and I hit enter, that sends that particular message. If we want to create breaks inside of this, we go ahead and hit that pencil icon and we type in this is a message, and we go ahead and we hit enter and we get our line breaks. And then if I want to send it, I can hit Control Enter now, and it will go ahead and send that out. So that is our rich formatting options. Other options that we have down here, notice we got this little exclamation mark. What's that little exclamation mark? Well, if we have a message, and maybe we really want to know because it's something that's very important, well, that little exclamation tells us that we can send this message with urgency. Now, by default, we send things as a standard message, meaning it'll just be sent and the person will see it whenever they're supposed to see it. But then we can also send an important message, and we can also send an urgent message. The important message will be marked as important, indicating, hey, this is important. If I go ahead and send this to her, she will see that it says important. It's got a real fancy red exclamation, so she knows I'm serious about what is going on. I can also send something that is urgent. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and hit this little exclamation mark, and we can go ahead and set it urgent. And what it's going to do is it's going to notify her every 2 minutes for the next hour saying, hey, something really is important. Personally, I would encourage you to use this sparingly because it could be a very frustrating topic for people, but it is a way of getting in front of messages. Now, we can also do kind of cool stuff with our messages as well in the actual message. We have this whole set of commands. We can use the @ sign, for example, if we want to mention somebody specifically. So I could say Alicia Yas, and notice when I did that, it auto-completed to her. So here's Alicia Yas. Are you there? Okay, and she will get specifically notified because I called her out with that mention. Pro tip, that functionality is also supported in Outlook. And we can also use other particular messages as well. If we want to do, for example, include other people, I can go ahead and we can also include other people as well. In this is, so if I wanted to call out, let's say, for example, Sean or other people inside of our organization, I can use that mention as well. So those are really kind of cool with respect to how you can use them. And also, we have other features and functions down here that we should be familiar with. We've got the attachment feature, so we can upload documents. We've got emoticons, a full range of them, all different types of smileys. One of my personal favorites are GIFs. So if I want to go and find, maybe it's Alicia, and I want to send her, have a great day. Okay, I can find a nice gift for her, and I can send that nice little animated message as well. There's other applications that you'll see, and we'll talk about these applications here in a little bit, including the schedule a meeting, the flow, and we can even send really kind of cool little praises to people, letting them know that we appreciate whatever work that they are doing. So I can go ahead and give her the awesome award and send her a nice little note letting her know that she is in fact awesome. And this will get pulled into other aspects of 365, including the Stream app. Alrighty, so this does bring us to our first review question for the day. Alrighty, give me 1 second here. Okay, so our first review question for the day. Which of the following is the primary reason to add the @ sign to a chat? Is it to reference a third-party information? No, it does not. Is it to link to an external resource? No, it is not. Is it to ensure a member is notified for a particular message? That is the correct answer. And so that is when you would go ahead and use that @ sign to notify a specific member of that a chat message has occurred. So definitely keep an eye out in the future, and that @ message can be very, very useful for notifying people that messages have popped up for them. Now, additionally, what you can also use, you can use the @general, @team, @channel, and all of those different applications can be quite helpful when you're trying to notify specific types of people. So specific types of people would be, for example, like the specific channel you're working with, the general channel, which would basically notify all people in the company, or a specific team. You can use those specific mentions as well. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our next section here, which is going to be communicating and talking with people inside of teams. There's lots of different opportunities for collaboration and for communication inside of this incredible tool. Now, when we're at the actual tool, we can either talk with a single person or we can talk with several people, just depending on what we are trying to do. We can initiate, for example, that meeting inside of the chat functionality of the application, and we can also initiate that functionality inside of the Teams application as well, depending on what we are trying to accomplish. Now, we're talking with Alicia here, and in the upper right-hand corner, what I want to draw your attention to would be these buttons, okay? And there's a couple that we should be familiar with. Okay, you'll notice we've got our little camera looking button, we've got a little audio looking button, we've got a little arrow pointing up button, and then we've also got like a person and a plus button as well. So these are the different tools that we can essentially use to institute a conversation with somebody. So as an example, let's say I want to go ahead and I want to talk with Alicia here. Well, what I can actually do is I can click this little phone button, and this is going to go ahead and institute a call with Alicia. So it's going to reach out to her. Oops, let's go ahead and enable access so that it can make this phone call. And it will go ahead and start this conversation, and she and I can go ahead and we can talk just like if we were on the actual phone itself. Now, I'm on a virtual machine at the moment, so I don't have a camera hooked up to this, so she can't hear me, but she did answer the phone, and then she and I can talk. And this would be a great time to say, hey, Alicia, you're doing a great job. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And even inside of this phone conversation, what we can do is I can start, for example, texting. And sometimes, for example, we'll be looking at the same thing. Maybe I'm going to send her a link for something to look at, something to do. Okay, well, this would be where we can actually continue to talk or video chat with each other, but we can still continue to chat. As I usually find, like when I'm talking with people, I'll still keep the chat open because we're often looking at the same thing together, and that chat option gives me the opportunity to be able to send a link, for example, or point them into the correct direction. Now, inside of our conversation at any point, if I did have a camera hooked up, I can go ahead and turn on my camera. I could also mute my mic and unmute my mic, and I can also, which is really kind of cool, is share content. Now, inside of this, we can share either an entire screen or we could share specific applications of something. So let's say, for example, I'm working on an Excel workbook here. And inside of this Excel workbook, I wanted to be able to just maybe walk through a calculation of some sort. And maybe we're working on something together. And I don't necessarily want to share every aspect of my screen. Well, what I can do is I can come up here to the share content, and I can go ahead and I can share just a window, and then I can go ahead and I can choose just this Excel workbook, and she now has a full screen version of this Excel workbook and only this Excel workbook. And if I close this particular application, that screen share will not display the rest of the stuff on my computer, thereby keeping the conversation secured, and I don't accidentally dox by displaying additional information. Now, alternatively, we can share the whole screen. So if we want to show the whole thing, we can even share just, for example, PowerPoint presentations or specific images or specific PDFs on our computer as well. And so that gives us the opportunity to be able to share specific content. Now, if we come over to the left side of this, you'll see these little 3 ellipses, and you'll see additional menu options presented here. This is, for example, where I could transfer the call to somebody else if it were a physical phone call. I could put Alicia on hold. Maybe, for example, somebody calls me on my cell phone and I say, hey, can you hold on a second? I got to talk to them. Well, I could put her on hold without, kind of sitting, on my phone and her seeing me on camera and just holding around. This will immediately suspend the conversation, and then we can pick it back up when I click that resume. Also, some other kind of really cool things that you can do with this. You can make it, for example, full screen, which could be really useful if you want to focus just on that one conversation. And if you've got multiple monitors, that's always appreciated. And you can also do different effects with the actual screen share itself. You can, for example, blur your background. You can add virtual backgrounds. You can set this up so that there are several different views that are supported inside of this. And those several different views kind of make it really nice with respect to how you would organize your meetings. And I can tell you that ideally you have like a nice virtual background like I have right now and a nice green screen. But Teams does a really good job. Even if you don't have that stuff, it will still do a pretty good job of blurring your background or adding a virtual background. So that can be quite useful and quite good. So let's go ahead and end this phone call with Alicia. And let's go ahead and take a look at the other options. So we have our video conversation. We also have our audio conversation. Sometimes I don't want to talk to somebody and I just want to show them something on my computer. Well, one of the nice things about this is I can just go ahead and I can screen share something. Let's go ahead and share my whole desktop right here. And this will just share the screen. So it instantly starts a screen share with Alicia, and she doesn't have to hear me or talk to me, which probably would be appreciated in many different instances. So we can use that screen share functionality just to be able to quickly show something to somebody and move about our day. We can also give control. So if I want to, for example, let her drive, maybe she needs to show me something, I can go ahead and give her control to this, and she'd be able to move my mouse if I let her. Okay, so I can, for example, give her that kind of control, and then she can go ahead and move the mouse, and she can also work on this computer, which can be quite good. So you'll notice, for example, as our mouse is zooming around there, it actually, what I really like about it, notice how we have 2 different cursors, and you have my little icon cursor and you have her cursor there. So you can actually see what each of us are doing. So if we're working like on a Excel workbook as an example, it makes it really great because you can easily see who is doing what. Now, these team conference call functionalities also could be present in the Teams itself. If we have a team set up, we can come on over here and we can choose to meet with the whole team. So all the conference sharing that I've been talking about and the video conferencing and the screen sharing and stuff like that can also be allocated to a team and to a channel. If we look in the actual team itself and to that specific channel, we can see who is a member of that particular channel and who's a part of that particular channel. And then from there, we can also institute that conversation right inside of that as well. So if you're trying to, for example, gather the whole team together for the demo client or the Acme Brick client, instead of having to have them listed one by one, you just allocate them to this specific team. And then in that specific team, you can go ahead and click that Meet button, and that Meet button will call everybody simultaneously. And it's kind of a more organized, meeting in this particular case. And there's for example, all the audio controls that you would come to expect, for example, like in Zoom, are going to be present in this Teams Meet functionality. So we're going ahead and instituting this, and in my other screen, I'm getting pinged, letting me know that that there is a meeting going on, and I could choose to join that meeting if I'd like, and I could also add other participants in this as well. I can also send this out by email if I choose to invite other people to this overall meeting. But in our company, what we use this for, we tend to use the chat functionality for ad hoc stuff, like one-to-one type thing, talking with Alicia or talking with the 3 or 4 members of our team. We use the team functionalities when we choose to use more formal meetings, like an all-hands meeting or a company-wide meeting, whatever we choose to use. Okay, let's go ahead and have our second review question. Which of the following statements is true regarding audio calls made using Teams? Okay. You can converse with other Teams users inside of your organization. Yeah, absolutely you can. You can converse with other team members outside of your organization. You betcha. You can talk with people inside as well as outside. You can also converse with people using a traditional phone service plan if you've purchased a calling plan. And the answer to all of this is certainly yes. You can do all of these if you happen to have the right version of Teams. So let's go ahead and give you that polling question. Feel free to respond as needed. Okay, and feel free to respond. There we go. And we'll have a third polling question here in about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so Teams is not really kind of designed to be an email application. However, there are some email functionalities that you should be familiar with respect to Teams. Teams can initiate emails, for example, as I showed you here with sending out an email report or an email invitation for a meeting. It can also be used to receive emails in conjunction with SharePoint as well. So as an example here, one of the things you should be familiar with the organization of your teams, you can create your channels, you can create your teams, and you can create the different channels inside of it. One of the things most folks don't know, okay, is that your teams can also get a link as well as an email address inside of this application. So to make it clear, we have our team. In this case, it's our company. In this case, Debmatics. We have a variety of additional channels, which I've hidden for privacy purposes. And we have our demo channel listed. In your company, your channels could be projects. It could be business locations. It could be companies. It could be clients, whatever you choose to do. And one of the things you could do is you could use the email functionality to be able to deliver documents and information into that team's channel. So you create your team, you create your different channels inside of this, you click these little 3 ellipse buttons, and you'll see this option that says get email address for this team. This is going to generate an email that you can then share with other people to be able to email stuff in. The benefit of this is that when people email this address, it goes to the whole team concurrently and everybody gets a copy of it. If we click this additional settings here, we can add some additional permissions and privileges around this particular email address. Right now it's set, for example, so that anybody can use it. But we could also say only members of this team, and as well as only specific domains listed. Okay. Right now we've got this set to anybody, and let's go ahead and try this out. Feel free to send an email, and let's see if we can get maybe some communication sent into this team. I'm going to go ahead and try one real quick. Okay. This is a message. And let me just try to attach a quick document to this. Okay. Okay, and if we go ahead and we email in, and I'm just doing this in a separate email here. Okay, and we click, we should see that pop up here as those emails are processed, and they'll be added to this channel. We'll see those images pop up, or the emails pop up in the posts. And if there were any attachments with those actual emails themselves, we'll see those over here in the files section as they pop up. Okay, and in fact, here we go. We got our first one. I just emailed this in from my personal email, just saying, hello, everybody, have a great day. We can see that I included a file. Okay, here's that file. It just happens to be an image. Okay, and this is a great way, for example, to have like a support email or a sales email where it's not tied to an individual person, but rather to a collective group that is taking care of a task. So imagine you got the billing team, the department, can all share this team and channel and be able to communicate right in there. Now, the attachment that I have is also present in the files section, and you'll see email messages. And then in fact, if there were several attachments listed right here, we would see it. But in fact, we see the EML, which is the actual email, and then the attached PNG file as well. So if anybody else emails in, we'll see that here in a moment. Person wrote in here, would you please show how you got to the inbox one more time? Sure, absolutely. You create your team. Within the team, you'll see the channel listed. You click the little 3 ellipses next to the channel. You'll see an option that says get email address, and this is where you can go ahead and generate that email. And I can click the remove email, so if it gets doxed, meaning it's made publicly available and other people are familiar with it, I can go ahead and regenerate that email, and it'll be completely new the next time it goes in. Now, another person wrote in, I'm not seeing the get email address on my Teams. Well, in that particular instance, most likely the issue is that the security settings for your organization are such that they're not allowing you to do that. And we'll talk more about the securities section here in a moment. Okay. So in a nutshell, Teams is not an email application, although it does have email functionality. And when used in the correct way, I find it to be very effective with respect to what you are working on and what you are doing. All right, let me make one quick change. And I'm going to add Alicia real quick to this demo team. Or the demo channel. Oh, she's already in it. Okay. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and have another polling question. And our third polling question for this. Okay, when sharing your screen with others in Teams, which of the following statements is true? Okay, you can share only your desktop. Nope, that is not true. You can share more than just your desktop. You can only share a specific application. Again, not true either. Okay, is it you could share your desktop or a specific application? That is in fact the correct answer here. You could share either a application or a entire desktop, but only one at a time. You can unfortunately not have 2 screen shares going concurrently. So either an application or desktop. Now, just as a pro tip, if you expect, for example, to do multiple applications, you're better off sharing your desktop, because that way you can drag other things to the desktop and people will see it.